the heat of World War II, America's armored forces didn't just confront the enemy, they reshaped the battlefield itself. Speed, firepower, and relentless innovation came together under the pressure of total war, forging machines built to dominate land combat. But what happens when raw power, mobility, and battlefield strategy collide? The answer could change everything. Stay with us as we uncover the untold strength behind America's legendary armored warfare. The M3 Stuart was a U.S. light tank from the early years of World War II. It was built to be fast. It was made for scouting, guarding the sides of bigger forces, and helping infantry. It was not meant to fight heavy tanks face to face. In 1940 and 1941, the U.S. needed tanks quickly. The Army wanted a tank that factories could build in big numbers, and a tank that could drive ahead to find danger. The Stuart filled that job. In battle, the Stuart worked like armored cavalry. It ran reconnaissance. It screened columns on the move and checked roads for ambushes. The British used it early in North Africa, including Operation Crusader in late 1941. Crews nicknamed it Honey because it felt smooth and dependable. The US used Stuarts in the Pacific too. In jungles and rough ground, a smaller tank could move where heavier tanks struggled. That kept the Stuart useful for close infantry support. A common Stuart had a crew of 4. Its main gun was 37mm with machine guns for close threats. Its armor was light, with a top thickness often listed around 51mm. It could reach about 36 miles per hour, using a gasoline engine around 250 horsepower. As the war moved on, enemy guns got stronger. The Stuart's small gun and light armor could not keep up, so it shifted to scouting and support roles. Today, it is not a frontline combat tank, but a small number have been kept in service for training in Paraguay, and reports say Ecuador still operates some Stuarts. Key versions include the M3, M3A1, and M3A3. The M5 and M5A1 Stuart were improved U.S. light tanks from 1942. They were built to keep the Stuart line strong, but also to save the older radial engines for aircraft. The big change was inside the hull. 2 Cadillac V8 car engines linked to automatic hydromatic transmissions. That made the tank easier to drive, easier to train on, and smoother on the move. It also ran quieter and cooler than earlier Stuarts. The M5's job stayed simple. It was a cavalry tank. It moved fast ahead of the main force. It scouted roads and villages. It watched the flanks. It guarded convoys and supply routes. It also supported infantry when speed mattered more than heavy armor. U.S. units used it, and many were sent to allies through Lend-Lease. British forces called the M5A1 Stuart 6. As enemy anti-tank guns improved, the Stuart family was used more for scouting and support, not for tank duels. A typical M5A1 had a crew of 4. Its main gun was the 37mm M6 with .30 caliber machine guns for close threats. Battle weight was about 16.5 tons. Top road speed was about 36 miles per hour. Range was about 99 miles on roads. Armor was light, roughly 13 to 51mm. By 1944, the newer M24 Chaffee began replacing it. Today, the M5A1 is not in modern military service. It survives mainly in museums and restored collections. The M24 Chaffee was America's late World War II light tank, built in 1944 to replace the older M3 and M5 Stuart. It stayed light and fast, but it hit much harder. Its big upgrade was a 75mm M6 gun, the same light 75mm type used on the nose of the B-25. It also carried 2.30 caliber machine guns and a .50 caliber machine gun for air and close threats. The crew was 5. The Chaffee was made for the jobs a light tank does best. It moved ahead of the main force. It scouted roads and towns. It guarded the flanks and warned bigger tanks about danger. It could also support infantry with real force, because its 75mm gun had far more punch than the older 37mm guns. The Lewis Army Museum notes it was best used for reconnaissance, and it first saw combat at the Battle of the Bulge. Inside, it used twin Cadillac V8 engines with an automatic transmission and torsion bar suspension for a smoother ride off-road. It weighed about 18.4 tons, could reach about 35 miles per hour, and had a road range around 100 miles. After World War II, it served in many countries, but it is not a modern frontline tank today. Uruguay's upgraded Chaffees were the last known to remain in service, and they were retired around 2018 to 2019. The M3 Lee and M3 Grant were U.S. medium tanks from 1941 to 1942, built as an emergency fix. The US wanted a 75mm gun on the battlefield fast, before a new tank with a full 75mm turret could be produced in huge numbers. The M3 was that stopgap. Its layout was unusual but made sense for speed of production. The main 75mm gun sat in the hull on the right side, with only limited left-right movement. A small turret on top carried a 37mm gun. In British service, the US-style turret was called Lee, and the British-style turret was called Grant, changed to fit their radio and crew layout. The Tank Museum notes the Grant first fought in North Africa in May 1942. In combat, the M3 gave Allied forces early firepower before enough Shermans arrived. The 75mm could support infantry and fight armor, while the 37mm covered close threats. A common spec is about 30 short tons, a crew of 7 in the Lee or 6 in the Grant, and a Wright Continental R975 radial engine around 400 horsepower. Top road speed was about 26 miles per hour, with armor often listed up to about 51mm. The limits were real. It was tall and easy to spot. The hull gun could not swing like a turret gun in a moving fight. As better tanks arrived, the M3 shifted to training and other roles. It is not in active service today. The M4 Sherman was the main US medium tank of World War II. It replaced the M3 Lee/Grant and was built in huge numbers for a long war. Nearly 50,000 were produced, and Shermans fought in North Africa, Italy, Western Europe, and the Pacific. What made the Sherman special was not one magic feature. It was how useful it was as a whole tank family. It was built in a standard way, so parts and repairs were simpler. Many crews valued that it could often be fixed close to the front. A typical Sherman had a 5-man crew and a 75mm gun early on. Later models used a 76mm gun for better anti-tank fire, or a 105mm gun for close support. Depending on the model, it weighed around the low 30-ton range and could reach roughly 24 to 29 miles per hour, with armor commonly described from about 12mm to 75mm in different areas. The Sherman could also be changed for special missions. The DD Sherman was built to swim during landings. It used a tall canvas screen to float and propellers to move in water, but the Sherman had hard fights. By 1944, it could be outclassed by newer German tanks like the Tiger and Panther. It also gained a harsh nickname, Ronson, because it could burn when hit. The Sherman is not in service today. Paraguay retired the last active Shermans in 2018. The M26 Pershing was America's late war step up from the Sherman. By 1944, US crews needed a tank that could face stronger enemy tanks with more confidence. The Pershing brought thicker armor and a bigger anti-tank gun. It first entered service listed as a heavy tank. After the war, it was reclassified as a medium tank. Its key weapon was the 90mm gun M3. That gun gave the Pershing much more punch than many Sherman setups. It could fight enemy armor and still help infantry attacks. The Pershing reached Europe very late, so only a small number fought in World War II. Even so, its design clearly points toward post-war US tanks. Here are the main facts. Crew, 5. Fighting weight, about 92,355 pounds, around 41.9 tons. Suspension, torsion bars, made for a steadier ride over rough ground. Engine, a Ford GAF gasoline engine. Top road speed, about 30 miles per hour. Range, about 100 miles. Upper hull armor could reach about 102mm, with other areas thinner. The Pershing's strength was simple, stronger firepower plus better protection. In a more modern layout, its weakness was timing. It arrived too late and in too few numbers to shape the war like the Sherman did. After World War II, it served into the Korean War era. Then the US withdrew it in 1951 as newer Patton tanks took over. It is not in active service today. From the M3 Stuart's lightning-fast reconnaissance to the mighty M26 Pershing's heavy punch, these tanks were more than just machines. They were the backbone of battle strategy, adapting to the changing tides of war. The race for innovation, power, and survival was on. Watch as we explore how each tank shaped the outcome of World War II. Subscribe now.